Hey friends, are you wondering what to plant in your garden this October? Well, stick around because I'm going to share with you what vegetables you can start, projects to get done in the garden, and a special tip that will help you get the most out of your garden. If you didn't see my recent videos, you may not know that I am actually not in the Homegrown Florida Garden. I'm out in our RV doing a cross-country trip to Washington State. But before I left, I did a full teardown of my garden and I replanted it with all of my fall and winter crops. I deliberately planted only seeds that take between 70 and 90 days until harvest so that all the crops will be ready once I return. If you didn't get a chance to see those videos, I'll add them to the end of this video so that you can check those out after. I've been watching the garden from my security camera so I can see that some things are doing really well and some things are not. But that's to be expected when you abandon your garden for months. And as you are now aware, since I am not home, I had to take a pause on the free seed giveaways, but I have come up with a very cool giveaway that I'll be doing once I return, and I can promise you that it is very good. I really want to tell you about it right now, but I'm still working out the details, so for now, I'm going to leave it a secret. I will be announcing that giveaway in the monthly videos once I return, so make sure to keep tuning in at the beginning of each month so that you don't miss it. If you're new to my channel, I live in Central Florida on the West Coast in Zone 9A. If you're south of me, this video will give you a head start, and if you are north of me, then this video will help remind you of anything you might have missed. A lot of the seeds we started last month in the garden are going to be pretty similar to what we're going to be starting this month, with the exception of the warm season crops that are now just a little outside of the proper season, unless you are growing in South Florida where you have more time. In the deep South Florida area, you should be able to grow the warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers all winter long as you don't have any threat of frost. Let's start with what you can be starting from seed this month. You can do beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, Chinese cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, collards, kale, kohlrabi, lettuce, mustard, onions, peas, radishes, spinach, Swiss chard, and turnips. You are also not too late for transplanting strawberries. Now is a great time to get those plants in the ground. It's probably too late to start things like cucumbers, squash, beans, tomatoes, eggplants, or peppers from seed at this point, but you could purchase like starts or small plants from your nurseries for these warm season crops. But if you're going to go that route, get them planted ASAP, towards the beginning of this month, not the end. Aim for early season varieties if that's possible and larger size starts or plants. So the small size tomatoes or summer squashes versus beefsteak and winter squashes, that's what you're aiming for. Don't forget to hit that notification bell below. You'll be the first to know whenever I release a new video packed with gardening tips. So go ahead and give that little bell a tap and let's stay connected. Now let's jump right into the projects for this month. The first one you may want to consider is harvesting your sweet potatoes. If not this month, next month, but the goal will be to get them harvested before your first frost, since that will kill all the foliage. If you prefer to wait, you can start harvesting single potatoes as you need them, but be aware that sweet potatoes are not very sweet when you first harvest them. You will need to cure them for a couple of weeks to help them increase their storage ability as well as enhance the sweetness. When you harvest them, don't wash them off. You want the dirt to stay on the potatoes until you're ready to eat them. It adds a natural protective layer. To cure your sweet potatoes, you want to put them in a dark, warm, humid environment for 2 weeks. My garage here in Florida is a perfect place. It's usually dark, it's always hot, and we still have a lot of humidity this time of year. So just lay them out on some cardboard in a single layer, and after 2 weeks, I move them to a paper bag and I move them inside into my pantry. I like storing them in milk crates in these paper bags. Paper bags are really ideal since they're pretty breathable and they keep light out, which is what you want. I always get my paper bags from the grocery store when I go shopping. Just ask them to double bag your groceries with paper bags, and that always gives me enough for all my garden projects, including compost material and weed barrier. Little extra helpful hint there. Another project you might want to consider is planting your strawberries. Fall is the perfect time for strawberries here in Florida. Cold weather and frost don't bother the plants at all. The worst that can happen is that any fruit on the plant during a frost or freeze can be damaged, so make sure to harvest before you get any super cold weather. The plants may slow down a little bit, but they will perk right back up and keep producing from fall all the way to spring. You can usually buy plants as bare roots or as plant starts. I personally prefer plant starts because I've had trouble with bare roots in the past. Last year I got some new plants from Berries Unlimited and I decided to put them in a different part of my garden just to see if they would work. I was skeptical because I wanted to plant these on the west side of my house where there is a lot of shade, but they produced really well and they made it through summer with a lot less issues. I really wanted to do this for two reasons. The first was the strawberry plants in my raised beds always seem to attract bugs, like really bad. I usually lost about 50% of the fruit to bugs. So by placing them over near the fruit trees, there are less bugs and the mulch is much larger pieces, and that seems to deter many of the bugs that I get in the raised bed from the mulched area. The other reason I wanted to move them was because the space beneath the fruit trees seems like blank space, and I hate blank space. Everything must be planted. So creating this perennial fruit space is like a dream come true. And they absolutely love the spot. They were still producing berries all the way into July. I was shocked. Also, normally my full sun strawberries look pitiful in the summer, but these guys stayed pretty healthy and happy. I now plan on letting the runners spread throughout this space and make this a true berry row, which will include my blackberries, blueberries, sherbet berries, elderberries, and now strawberries. I'm so pleased with this move. Another project you will want to keep up with is making sure you are pruning your tomatoes and trellising them up off the ground to avoid disease and bug damage. Last spring, I attempted the Florida weave, and I think it works okay, but you definitely want to use a sturdy post like a 1-inch bamboo or even better, a T-post. I had bamboo on one side and the thin green stakes on the other side, and those buckled under the weight about 2/3 of the way through the season. I had a lot of folks tell me an even better way is to use animal fencing or cattle panels connected to the T-post to trellis them up that way, and I think I might give that a try next spring, but for this season, I decided to just grow my tomatoes in pots with square cages that are pretty high, at least 6 feet. I went this route for a couple reasons. First, I wanted to be able to move my tomato plants inside when the frost started coming. Usually I lose my tomatoes in December, and I really wanted to see if I could grow a tomato plant through the whole winter for a fresh supply. I got this idea from the Millennial Gardener on YouTube. He suggested growing them in pots throughout the winter to get a head start on spring. But down here in Florida, I'm adapting it to be able to grow them in pots all winter long. After my raised bed versus container experiment, I got a lot of great advice from you guys about how to increase the health of the plant through the building of the soil. And so I started doing that now, and I'm starting to see a big difference. The other thing I learned from his video was to grow some cold hardy varieties. It's so weird for me to say that because that is part of the seed catalog that I normally just skip right over. But since I wanted them to produce during winter, this seemed like a good route, and I'm excited to share with you how it's going to go. So I'm going to be trying the Rosella Purple and the Slets varieties, which are medium-sized tomatoes, but the plants stay pretty compact, which is ideal for container growing. Something to start thinking about if you want to try growing tomatoes through the cold season. Now we have the special tip for the month. That special tip is to take a look around your garden at your perennials, especially the ones that are not super cold hardy. Now is the time to start taking some cuttings to carry them over till next year. Normally I do this with my Kiko's crump and my cranberry hibiscus, but I have a ton of new perennials that I want to try to keep throughout this year. You can also do this with plants that you want more of. I did that last year with my blackberries, and I ended up making 3 more blackberry plants. Next year will be a very large harvest since I did that. So in my garden, I'll be doing the greens I mentioned before, but I'll also do things like my pineapple sage, blueberries, and elderberries. That way I can create even more plants, and a lot of these types of plants benefit from having more than just one plant, even though they don't absolutely need that to produce. Also, with all these new natives in the garden, I'm a little concerned with how they will do through the winter. I'm going to take stem or root cuttings of each one and put them in pots. That way, if they don't grow back after the winter, I have some small plants off to the side ready to take their place. I did a video on this last year about how to make your own cuttings for free. I show you a couple different ways of doing it, but make sure you research each plant because some of them use branches or cuttings from the roots to properly propagate them. If I make it through winter and don't lose a single plant, these little guys will end up being gifts for my sister who is starting to fall in love with native Florida gardening. I'm probably making a few extras so I can make sure she gets a few no matter what. If you want to watch both my propagation videos, I'll pop them up right here. You can check those out between now and my next upload. Happy gardening, guys!